you're going to draw a picture of this function, what should you do first to this? What might be a good thing to try to do? Yeah, by doing what? By factoring. Is it factorable? Yeah, it's x minus 2 times x minus 1. So you have the intercepts, it's going to be a 2 and 1. Does it face up or down? Up or down? Up, correct. So let's just make the scale so it goes, what, 2 and 1. So let's say right there and right there. Faces up. You could do the vertex. Vertex can be halfway between, right? So it looks something like this. Like that, right? Y equals 0. That's also known as the what? X-axis. So you're looking at that region right there, and you're rotating it around the y-axis. So you can draw the other side to this pretty easily, right? So there it is. After you draw the mirror image, what should you draw? A shell. So let's draw this one right here, like this. There it is. Nice. Awesome. Are we integrating with respect to x or y? X. So it's dx. That is correct. Awesome. And we're going from what to what? Well, we factored, so we're going from 1 to 2. And this is going to be cylindrical shell, so it's going to be 2 pi times the radius and the height. Correct? So we have 2 pi, 1 to 2. What's the radius in this case? It's just x, because it's going around the y-axis. It hasn't been moved at all. And the height is going to be what? The height is going to be, what's it going to be? X minus? It's going to be 0 minus.
It should be y minus.
Well, 0 minus what?
X squared minus
3x, what? Plus 2? Yep, like that. Because it's below the x-axis, and it's dx. Awesome, good. So you have 2 pi from 1 to 2 of negative x cubed plus 3x squared plus 2x dx. Can you integrate this nicely? Yeah, what'd you get for an answer, Macy?
Oh, I did it wrong.
Ah, okay. Anybody have an answer that works? Anybody?
Maybe it's
Plot points. Just plug points in, right?
Yeah.
When x what do you know exists on the y-axis? What is the y-axis in this case? It's going to be a. It's going to be a what? It can't be 0. So what's going to be at x equals 0? And a vertical asymptote. That's correct. What's a good value to plug in? How about 4? We know at 4, what's this thing going to be? 5. So it's going to cross there, right? So let's say right about here. We know that that's 4. It's going to cross. You know that you could solve it. You could do 5 is equal to x plus 4 over x. If you want to solve that, what do you do first? If you want to solve that, what do you do first? Times x. Thank you. 5x equals x squared plus 4. So x squared minus 5x plus 4 is equal to 0. So x minus 4, x minus 1 equals 0. So it crosses out also at what? 1, right? 1 and 4, correct? And I think it goes like this, right?
Yeah.
That's correct, like this. So there's your region. What are you rotating it around? X equals negative 1. So you're rotating it around x equals negative 1. So our axis of rotation is slanted first, and I'll try to correct that. Our axis of rotation is x equals negative 1. So if we draw this shape here, we could draw the other one here and here. It's another check mark like this. Well, it's a little too deep, isn't it? Like this. Everybody sees this? So let's set this up. Are we integrating with respect to x or y? Integrating with respect to x. We have our slice right there. We have our slice right there. It goes like this. We're integrating with respect to x. So it's going to be the integral dx of r times the height. And we're going to integrate from what to what? 1 to 4. And it's going to be 2 pi rh. What's the radius in this case?
Negative 1 plus x.
Not negative 1 plus x. It's going to be 1 plus x. It's 1 greater than the x value. It's x. Another way to say that, though, if you want to say it properly, it would be x minus negative 1, which is 1 plus x, which is totally fine. And what's the height going to be? What's the height going to be? 5 minus x plus 4 over x. Correct. So what do you end up? You end up with 2 pi, the integral from 1 to 4 of r, which is x plus 1 times 5 minus x minus 4 over x dx. In order to do this out, what are you going to have to do? You're going to have to multiply it out. You're absolutely going to have to multiply it out. Okay, so here it is. So did you graph this? So it's right here. So let's say that's 1. So we have a circle of radius 1. Are we okay with this? If we spin that around the y-axis, what do you get? Sphere. Pi 4/3 pi r cubed is the formula. So that's going to be 4/3 pi times 1 cubed. So what's the answer going to be? 4/3 pi. Done.
I got that doing.
Now, we use the formula, right? What they want you to do is come up with a formula, come up with that formula, essentially. They want you to come up with 4/3 pi on your own. Can you do that?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Let's do that out and see if we get the same thing. We already know what the answer is. If I asked you this question on the test, is this sufficient? Absolutely. If I gave you a question, this would be recognizing whether you know it's a sphere or not, and then remembering what's the formula for a sphere. 4/3 pi r cubed. Can we do this with cylinders? Yes, absolutely. We have one side of our function, and we have the purple side of our function right there. So we should draw what one of our cylinders looks like. So here's one of the rectangles. Here's the mirror side of it. This is what it looks like, everybody. Does everybody see it? Am I doing okay there? Is that decent? Right? So we need a left and right hand, because what are we integrating with respect to?
What?
X. It's definitely x. And we're integrating from 0 to what? 0 to 1. It goes all the way out to 1, right? It goes out to 1. So essentially what you can think of is this side, that's the actual function. And what's the other side? That's the mirror half of it. That is the mirror half of it. So what do we need to solve for? We have x squared plus y minus 1 squared equals 1. What do we need to solve for? Nope. Everything needs to be in terms of x, so we need to solve for y. So we have y minus 1 squared is equal to 1 minus x squared. So y minus 1 is equal to plus or minus the square root of 1 minus x squared. So y is going to be equal to 1 plus or minus the square root of 1 minus x squared. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, let's try this here for a sec. 4 pi 0 to 1 of x times the square root of 1 minus x squared dx. What's u going to be?
1 minus x
U is equal to what?
1 minus x
So what's du is equal? What's du equal?
2x.
Negative 2.
2x.
Negative 2x, right? dx.
Yeah.
So what does dx equal? du over negative 2x. What do we do now? Plug it back in. We have 4 pi. The integral from what to what?
0. No. From
1. Why is it 1? These are x values. We're now in u values. You use this relationship, right? Plug in 0, what do you get? Plug in 1, what do you get? 0. Totally fine.
yeah, but
Of x times the square root of what? Nope. U. Careful. Times du over negative 2x. We can flip the limits of integration to make it negative, right? So ready? We factor out the 2 and the negative, but we flip it. So what do you end up with? 2 pi, the integral from 0 to 1 of, and what cancels? What's the magical thing that happens here?
Wait, why did it turn back into 2 pi?
Because of the 2 right here. We factored out that 2.
Oh.
I just did a couple things at once. So what do we end up with? The square root of u du. Can we integrate that, sucker? Absolutely. That's going to be 2 pi of what? 2/3 u to the... Yeah, good job. 0 to 1. Agreed? Plug in 0, what do you get?
0.
Plug in 1, you get 2 pi times 2/3, which is 4/3 pi. Pretty cool, huh? What's really neat about this, did we at any point use the area of a circle? Did we use pi r squared to do this? No, we didn't use pi r squared, but we used something really close to that, though. We still used a formula from a circle. Look at the original formula we used. There's something stuck out in the front. What do we have out front? 2 pi. We have 2 pi there because what? That's the circumference, right? So we use circumference is equal to 2 pi times the radius. Do you have any way of proving yet, or do you know how to prove off the top of your head that the circumference of a circle is 2 pi times the radius? Like an actual proof? Basically what we're getting to is, do we have a way of proving what, like coming up with a good way of coming up with pi? It's challenging. It's challenging. But so this is cool. It doesn't use pi r squared, but what does it use? The formula for a circumference. I need you to recognize that. Well, did we get what we wanted to get? Absolutely. I think it's pretty steep. It doesn't really matter because you can always change the scale, right?
Oh, I wrote 1 minus y squared.
Ah, oh, I see. Yeah, it's 1 minus y to the fourth. So if this is 1, it's just going to be really steep like this, right? And it's bounded by x equals 0. Oh, it's x equals y to the fourth. Ah, so, excuse me, I just didn't tilt it the right way. Which way does it face? Okay, when y is 0, what's x?
What?
When y is 0, what's x? It's 1, right? Which way is it going to face, left or right? It's going to face left. Because when x is 0, y is plus or minus 1. When x is 0, yeah, plus or minus. So it's going to go like this. Do we agree with this? Okay. And it's x equals 0, so it's this boundary right here. So do you see your shape? And what are we rotating it around? X equals 2. So if we do that, x equals 2 is right here. And then we graph it again. Right about here, sure, or here. There it is. Everybody see it? What do you have to draw first? Should you use a shell or a washer? Use a shell. Absolutely use a shell on this thing. This to here. There it is. Everybody sees it? Integrating with respect to x or y. 2 pi dx, that's correct. And we're integrating from 0 to what? 0 to 1, yeah. There's our original region, right? We're going from 0 to 1. What's the radius on this thing going to be? 2 minus what? 2 minus x, exactly, right. Absolutely. And we want everything in terms of x. We need the height. But we know x is equal to what? 1 minus y to the fourth. So y to the fourth is equal to 1 minus x. So what does y equal? The fourth root of 1 minus x. And it's plus or minus, correct? Well, it's a symmetric function. There's an upper and a lower. We just want twice the positive. So what's the height of this thing going to be? 2 times the fourth root of 1 minus x. Exactly, right. On this one, we have to be a little careful. Do they ask you to do this by hand? Does it say? It says, let's check. It says, yeah, it says find it. So theoretically, should you be able to do this one by hand? Yeah, theoretically. So if you do this one out,